Hello and welcome to this session on nutrition. My name is Stephen Davis, I'm a registered nurse, and we're going to run through some of the learning outcomes for this course. By the end of this session, you should be able to understand what nutrition and what hydration is and why it's important. You should understand what constitutes a healthy diet and be able to plan a nutritious menu for service users. You'll be able to analyse some of the menus and again be able to shop and prepare food for people. Now again, this session is delivered with home carers in mind. So it adds the complexity that actually we have people making rights and choices. As we do then, I want you to think about capacity and consent. And what it states is that people are entitled to choose things that we may see to be unwise. Therefore, it may involve things such as food and fluid. I may be a diabetic person, I may want sugar in my tea or coffee, and I have the capacity to understand what my decision is. You, as the carer, may feel that that is an unwise decision, but does it stop me having my needs met? Hopefully you will have done the capacity training and you will have done the consent training, and you'll be able to lean on those to understand how they apply to these situations. In care we call them ethical dilemmas, so there's not necessarily right or wrongs, but there are things and basic principles in which you should follow. You may have somebody who's clinically obese with poor cell repair and they're wanting things that do not necessarily constitute a well-balanced diet. The reality is, if they have capacity and they're able to consent, then what we need to be doing is providing them with enough information to make an informed choice. If they still make a choice and we still feel it to be unwise, they're entitled to make that decision. So let's start off with malnutrition. So signs and symptoms of malnutrition. We all need to eat to maintain a good immune system. And not only is it about a good immune system, it helps our brain function, it helps our mental health, but it also improves our physical health. We need to eat a certain amount of food and food groups to maintain good cell repair and good skin repair. Without those, we may end up with pressure sores, we may end up with ulcers, and we may end up with deteriorating underlying health problems. So it's really important we do maintain a good nutritional balanced diet. Now, there are areas in which you can go to kind of find more information out, and one of the sites that I'd like to kind of advise you to go and have a look is MUST, M-U-S-T. So it's called the MUST score. And the MUST score looks at the malnutritional scores, and you put your weight, your height and your BMI in, and what it does is it will come up with an action plan. So if you're overweight, underweight, it will tell you what to do. So back to this, we know that we can go up to 5 days and actually we won't eat anything, or we don't need to eat anything. Now what happens to our body after 3 days? We enter a process called ketosis. And during that process, we stop feeling hunger, and our body realises that we're not going to have any more food coming in, so it looks at our body fat and it starts to eat our internal fat. What then happens there is the person will end up with a sugar high, and they'll feel quite energetic, they'll feel like quite euphoric, and they'll have lots of excess energy. So they go from somebody that was tired and burnt out to somebody with energy, because the energy source that the body was using has switched from a normal nutrition to using the reserve tank. This is important for you to understand because you may end up with people with eating disorders, or you may end up with vulnerable people that haven't eaten for a couple of days, and when you ask them, are you hungry, they go, no. Well, they're saying no because actually their body is burning reserves from elsewhere. And what tends to happen is we re-stimulate their hunger, we re-stimulate their stomach by giving them something to eat, and it forces their stomach to react, and then again they start to feel hunger again. So people that haven't eaten for a period of time, when they start to eat again, they'll start to get the sensation of feeling hungry. So If somebody loses more than 5% of their body weight over 3 to 6 months, that's too much. So again, the body goes into shock. And what it starts to do is it starts to store fat, and actually people go the opposite way, where they start to gain weight rather than trying to lose it. So it's important we don't lose our body weight too quickly. Over the first 3 days, you may see signs of people being tired and energyless, so they're drained. You may see their eyes starting to change colour, their lips changing colour, and their skin changing colour. Their mood may start to become, they may become more irritable, and you may see that they're becoming more agitated. Their stomach can become swollen because, again, they're storing water, and that can become impacted. Maybe fluid retention. Their skin around their mouth becomes a bit wrinkly, lips become dried, and you end up with muscle waste. You can see kind of sagging skin, etc. And again, change to skin colour. So when we pinch our skin, it should be nice and fleshy, and it should go back to its normal stretchiness as soon as you've done that. Again, signs of dehydration, so lack of fluid. So we know we can go up to 5 days without anything to eat. We can only do a day without anything to drink. So again, we would check the mouth. If the tongue is dry, if the mouth's dry, that's going to cause complications, because you can get sores, you can end up with mouth thrush, and again, it makes it really hard to swallow if you haven't swallowed something for a while. The skin becomes dry and flaky, so if you see the skin's really dry and flaky, it could be a sign of dehydration. Again, they'll experience a loss of appetite because the body is going into reserve mode and it's shutting its organs down. So after 24 hours, you'll find things such as the kidneys and the livers slowly shutting down to preserve energy. They may feel lightheaded and suffer lots of headaches. Their urine becomes quite dark and smelly. They may have a low urine output, and again, they may have signs of confusion. All of this are signs and symptoms of dehydration, so it's important we keep an eye out for them. As care staff, you should be aware of 2 charts. There's the urine chart, and it has 8 colours of urine on it, so you can download these from the internet or get them from your website. You've got the urine chart, and if you look at urine, it tells you if the person's dehydrated. And again, for food, we have the bowel chart, and you can see different types of feces and the way that it looks. And again, you can tell what's going on in the body just by looking at stool samples. So we have lots of roles and responsibilities. So the service users are able to vocalise what they need and want, but actually if they can't, then we need to be preparing meals and diets around those. Families and relatives may help us contribute towards their care needs and may give us an insight of their foods and likes and dislikes. Obviously, the management team have a duty of care to follow care plans. GPs have a duty of care to worry about the organs in the body and what's going on. Nurses will maintain health, so they'll carry on looking at weight. They may also insist on things such as fluid balance charts and eating charts. So if somebody's not eating that much, we should put them on a meal chart so we can see what they're eating and what their output is. So if they're eating food, are their bowels working properly? And equally, if they're drinking, on a fluid chart, can we see that 1.7 litres of water coming into the body and leaving the body? Finally, we're going to go down to multidisciplinary teams. So some of the elderly will complain that they can't eat because it hurts. So maybe their dentures are now loose and it's hurting their gums. Maybe their throat is constantly dry and therefore they're finding it difficult to swallow. They may end up with things such as where they're dysphagia, where the fluid is going into the lungs rather than into the stomach. So again, we may need to do referrals for speech and language. It's called the SALT team, speech and language therapy, and then other therapists. If we have patients and we need to get their BMI and we can't weigh them, we can take measurements of the arms and of the upper arm. And again, we can put those into the MUST calculator, which you can find online. And again, you'll get their read. So body mass index basically gives us an idea of whether somebody's overweight and underweight. And I'm aware most people feel quite negative towards these because everyone feels that they're over this side, but they are national guidelines, and again, they need to be applied with a bit of common sense. So care planning is really important. We need to make sure that we're trying to meet people's needs, and we do this by developing a care plan around the person. So this might be things such as eating habits, times, adaptations, likes and dislikes. So it's important I have an idea of the food groups you like and dislike. It's important that I'm aware of some of your religious and cultural beliefs and practices. It may be the fact that you're a vegan or a vegetarian, and therefore you want your food prepared in certain ways, and that's absolutely fine. Equally, it may be the fact that you've had a stroke or a physical health change, so we need to be looking at the resources to help you eat your meal. Do we need plates with plate guards? Do we need cups with the handles? And maybe we can have knives and forks with adaptations. All of this should be taken into account to promote people's eating. It may be the fact that your customers got early dementia and therefore they find the coordination skill quite difficult. And therefore we could move to finger food and buffet food so they're able to eat it. We know that we should have a balanced diet. So we know there should be our carbohydrates, which we can get from bread, rice, pasta and other areas. We've got our fresh fruit and veg. We have a combination of our meats, fishes, eggs, beans and northern dairy sources for protein. We have our calcium for milk and dairy foods. And again, we have our fats and sugars. So we know that we should have a blended diet there. We have different cooking methods for food groups, and again, there's positives and negatives to all of these. We know the moment we start cooking boiling things and roasting things, we start to take the nutrition out of some of the foods. So sometimes the least handled of the food will maintain a much more nutritional thing. We also know things such as carrots and things, if we start peeling all of our food, we're taking all the nutrition out. So again, washing them thoroughly and preparing them is far better than you peeling everything and taking away all the nutritional value. So if we're planning for somebody, we need to be planning different amounts of food groups in each meal. So here we're looking between 6 and 8 portions of carbohydrates, and that's 1/3 of our daily allowance. We should be aiming for 5 portions of fruit and veg throughout the day. We should have at least 1 to 2 portions of our proteins, 1 to 2 portions of our carbohydrates, of our calcium, and then our sugars and fats. And here you can see our fluid intake. Now fluids can be a combination of anything. It can be tea, coffee, it can be water, it can be fruit juices, it could be soups, jellies, ice creams, anything that turns into a liquid substance. We have our Eat Well plate, which is a real visual, so if you are helping to prepare a menu for somebody, you can show them this and try to prepare a meal around it. A typical example of a breakfast, you're looking at cereal, so you've got your carbs, you've got your milk, your calcium, you've got your fats and your sugars and your jam, so that's a typical example there. So in conclusion, we've understood why nutrition and hydration is important. We know that we can go up to 5 days without food, but we can only do a day without water, so therefore it's important we have it for cell repair, we have it for movement, we have it for thought, we have it for our mood. We've looked at what constitutes a nutritional diet, so we've looked at the food cycle, the food table, and the different groups. Be able to plan a nutritional menu, so again, if you use that Eat Well plate, you're able to pick food from there. We're able to look at the menu and understand how much we need in each area, and we looked at some of the cooking procedures. However, remember, it is the customer's choice. So we need to be working alongside them in a co-productive way, trying to encourage best practice around nutrition and working with them in a way that meets their needs. And they may be making unwise choices, but what we should be doing is educating them why they're unwise choices, but not stopping people making them. Thanks for watching. If you need any help, please talk to your care coordinators or managers, And if you want further information, I highly recommend the MUST calculators online, or alternatively read your policies and procedures from your place of work. Thanks for watching.